So consider the possibility that in making this announcement, Angela Merkel had effectively neutered the opportunity to target its nuclear facilities with the Stuxnet. And the reason obviously being, but Japan might have been getting some retribution for, one, its press statement of March 11th, 2010, two, its voting against Israel in the UN on February the 18th, and three, its agreement to do some nuclear fuel processing for Iran. So, who is the sovereign nation that would perhaps have most to gain by attacking Japan in this way? And if they had attacked Japan because Japan had taken the decision to make this stand against Israel, did Germany feel that they might actually unleash the Stuxnet on them? Well, by taking obviously the nuclear issue out of the equation, everything goes quiet until all of a sudden we have this E. coli release in Germany. And initially, of course, it's announced that it's coming from Spanish cucumbers. And of course, over the next 2 or 3 days, this completely destroys the Spanish cucumber market. And now you've got Spanish farmers, desperate for some kind of compensation because obviously their income from their crop this year has been completely wiped out.
Yeah.
But then it's established, oh no, it's not the cucumbers. And by the way, of course, it was organic cucumbers, which we have to also focus on. It was organic cucumbers.
Yeah.
So we move away from organic cucumbers, and now it's organic bean sprouts, with the emphasis again on the organic. And of course, we've got the same situation now with the bean sprout crop as we have with cucumbers. But then, fortunately, Germany does still have some considerable scientific capability, and the Koch Institute did their own analysis of the E. coli, and what they discovered, of course, is absolutely remarkable, and that is that this particular strain of E. coli is pretty much resistant to every form of penicillin on the market. And this doesn't happen by accident. I mean, this is a laboratory culture. To develop an E. coli strain that's pretty much resistant to every form of penicillin that's available. I mean, this has to be developed over months or years to reach the point where it can be unleashed, and there be no known antidote.
And you're subjecting the strain of E. coli to a small amount, I think, of antibiotics to begin with, and that makes it stronger and stronger progressively, right? Isn't that how it works? Yeah,
exactly right. But I mean, so it's not something that happens overnight.
That's right.
It's a bio-warfare culture. I mean, that's what's been developed here. It's a bio-warfare culture, and this bio-warfare culture was effectively unleashed on Germany. And I mean, we know that this is an extremely virulent strain of E. coli. And in fact, I literally gathered, I think within the last day or so, that a number of the people who have been affected by this are now in desperate need of liver transplants. So, it's started to obviously attack the internal organs within a very, very short space of time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have, as of, let's see if I can find the notes for this. I was looking into this as of 13th of June. I think we have about 35 deaths so far, about 3,200 cases, and this, of course, primarily in Germany, but also in Switzerland, Poland, Holland, Sweden, Denmark, the UK, Canada, and the United States as well. So it's starting to spread, obviously. Now, the question here of where did it come from? How was it put onto the cucumbers or whatever it is that it's been coming from, Ian? Any theories? Have you heard anything about that?
No. I mean, this is where we're sort of very much into the area of conjecture now. I mean, it's still very, very early days here. But, let's consider the possibility that that Germany was absolutely right on the nail with their observation about the Stuxnet virus attacking the nuclear facilities in Japan, and wanting to protect themselves against a similar attack, announcing their closing, shutting down of the nuclear program in Germany, and then thinking that it was all over, and of course now being shown that actually, don't worry about the Stuxnet because there's other ways we can nail you. And this actually has a sort of a double benefit for whoever it is that's unleashed this, because it's certainly obviously trying to send the message of, you don't mess with us. Because if you mess with us, look at what we can do. We can unleash this crap on you. Yeah. But what it's also done is it's also tainted organic food. And of course we know that, a massive part of the Codex Alimentarius agenda is to completely eradicate all natural farming. And Germany has been at the absolute forefront of the resistance in the EU against the importation and growth of GM crops. In fact, Germany has, I think, a very large. It certainly has the largest proportion of biodynamic farmland in Europe. But even so, that's quite a small percentage. But as of 2010, Germany actually had 5.2% of its total farmland, its arable farmland, was labeled as absolute 100% organic. And this is something, of course, that's very, very important to Germany. Obviously, it's a country of a very, very balanced economy. It's the country in Germany that's retained a very strong manufacturing base.
That's right.
But it also has a very, very strong agricultural base. And it hasn't been targeted with by the biotech industry in the same way as the biotech industry has targeted the US and even the UK. So, it's a double whammy for Germany, because we've got potentially it was the nuclear facilities that would have been attacked first. Now they've gone for the organic food.
So how do you think, they will be able to, if so, protect themselves from from a potential virus, then, if that is what they're being targeted with? Because again, we're looking at 2022 at the earliest, and again, these things always, usually anyway, if this is true, let me put it that way. And the reason why I say this is because we've heard promises here in Sweden of them decommissioning, the government's decommissioning our nuclear power plants up here. And that has been drawn out for, I don't know how long now, 40 years at least, 30 years, and nothing is happening. In fact, that they're going in the opposite direction. So the question, of course, is this really the truth that we're getting from the German government? But let's say it is, Ian. Then this is still going to take a whole, heck of a long time, if you will. They need to find viable options, something else to go over to. So will they be able to do that in time? This will still be a big threat, correct?
Oh, without any shadow of doubt. And we're in this great period of transition right now, that's for sure, because although, as I've discussed with you before, although there is more than enough oil on the planet to keep us moving for the next probably 100 plus years, in reality, it's an old technology. We don't need to be using oil. Consider how outrageous it is that we are still using a technology that's effectively 140 years old as our main means of transportation.
Yeah.
You look at every other area of advance in technology, with the exception of our fuel. And we go back to the late 19th century. And Henry Ford was instructed to stop building the electric car by John D. Rockefeller in 1896. In the 1890s, there was 2,000. I'm going from memory here, but I'm not far off the mark. In the 1890s, there was about 2,500 vehicles registered in New York City. Obviously, New York City wasn't the metropolis it is today. But of those 2,500 vehicles, 1,800 of them were electric.
Wow.
Now, obviously, they didn't have a great range, but within the scale of transportation, at the time, electric vehicles were absolutely fine. And of course, the Rockefellers were the ones who actually bought up the electric tramways that had been built in many of the cities around the US, buying up the tramways and then putting petrol and diesel-driven buses, and then reducing the supply of the buses and thereby encouraging people to buy the personal automobile. And of course, all of this was to fuel, literally, no pun intended, to fuel the demand for oil. So what's been created on the planet is this infrastructure that's capable of producing 90 million barrels a day, which is pretty much close to what we're consuming. But in reality, there are many, many alternatives, as we have discussed before, and most of those alternatives are suppressed by the oil industry because they effectively own the patents. And woe betide anybody who does come up with a viable alternative, because what will happen is it'll make the press, and it'll make the press maybe once or twice, and then it'll just disappear.
Yeah.
And that's because the oil company has gone in there with an offer of helping development, mutual support, putting funding into R&D. But in reality, as soon as they get their hands on the patent, they just stick it in the bottom drawer and bury it.
That's right. That's right. It's the that is the kind of the nutshell, if you will, of the Rockefeller Standard Oil conspiracy right there, and why we are in such a bad state right now in the Western world in terms of, as you say, Ian, transportation and other alternative energy solutions. Because as all new technology is, it's not that great in the beginning, just as the combustion engine wasn't perfect to begin with right away, but it's been refined and improved, and I'm sure that the same thing would have happened with the electric car, of course, if that would have continued.
Exactly. Well, even assuming that we stayed with the internal combustion engine, I mean, the technology has been around. And I mean, I have this from literally a personal friend of mine who works in the motor industry. And he makes the observation. He says, look, the technology has been around for at least 40 years for the lean burn carburetor.
Mm-hmm.
And the lean burn carburetor should mean that every vehicle on the road today returns at least 100 miles per gallon. So why isn't that introduced? Two reasons. Two very, very important reasons. One is obviously because they want to sell us the oil. They want to create a market to consume the capability of production, i.e. 90 million barrels a day. But more importantly, in the West, it's tax. What people very conveniently forget is that certainly in Western Europe, the vast majority of what we pay at the pump for a liter of fuel is taxation.
That's right. Yeah.
And you look at the situation that Europe is supposedly in right now, where pretty much every country, of course, has been deliberately brought to its economic knees. And we've got 6 countries literally on the brink of bankruptcy, and others not far behind. And that's with the phenomenal amount of taxation that has been collected through fuel. Imagine what it would be like without that.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
So the hydrocarbon industry right now is absolutely integral, and it's an inextricable part of the global economy, and that's why one way or another, everything has to effectively collapse and give us a chance to rebuild from scratch.
Well, absolutely. I mean, again, it's where are the 4-seated flying saucers? That's what I'm waiting for, so we can actually get somewhere here. But we can talk more about that later, Ian. We have much more we want to address here, obviously, and tying in. I want to ask you a little bit more about who you believe actually is behind this strand of E. coli, who might potentially then have released it, tied into some of the other aspects in terms of the Zionist gang out there, and how much we should put responsibility in their hands, obviously, because many of the clues are leading us there now. But we'll see where we end up here. I want to highlight people to go to your website, obviously, ianrcrane.co.uk for more information. People can sign up for your newsletter right there. You have a lot of DVDs and material as well for people there. How's the talks going? Are you continuing there? Where are you going next?